You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
Let's go!
Folks, welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison. I'm here with my co-host, David Story. We have been talking, we talked to Doug Jones earlier in the show. We talked about Tommy Tupperville. We talked about the Voting Rights Act. Now, coming back to our bread and butter, we're talking about unions, okay? And when I saw this, I was really happy. I was not surprised, but I was really happy. And so what this is a study out of the Health Affairs Journal. It's an academic journal about health affairs. And what it found is that more than 40% of all reported coronavirus cases, deaths, came out of nursing homes, right? This has been known for a while. A lot, like a really disproportionate amount of deaths have come out of nursing homes. Part of the reason for that is, of course, because nursing homes house older people, and older people are more susceptible to the virus, right?
They're held captive.
Yeah.
They're held captive. I mean, it's basically a prison for old folks.
Yeah. So, but what this study found is that in nursing homes where the healthcare workers had unions, there was a 30% relative decrease in COVID-19 mortality rates compared to facilities without healthcare worker unions. Additionally, there was a 40% decrease in coronavirus cases in nursing homes with healthcare worker unions. And so what this does is it shows that, which is something that anybody in a union knows this already. Anybody that's listening to this show knows this already. But unions, we don't just fight for our members. Okay? We fight for our members. We fight like hell for our members, okay? And we deserve to have people fighting for us, okay? Working people deserve advocates, and working people deserve to be able to be their own advocates. We deserve higher wages, better working conditions, better health care, better benefits, more time off, okay? These are things that working people deserve. But unions are also fighting for our communities. We're fighting for the people that we serve, because especially in these like service industries like healthcare, this is not just a job to them. This is like they want to be able to do their job well. And so in places like in the hospitals up in Pennsylvania where we talk to those union nurses, and in nursing homes where they have unions, the union allows the workers to have a voice on the job, and it allows them to do their job better because they can get their boss out of their way. I mean, because anybody that's been working for any amount of time has had a situation where their management got in the way and they were telling them to do something that you knew was going to screw up the job, that you knew it was going to take longer, it wasn't going to be as efficient. And when you're in a union, you get to dictate more of the terms of your employment. You get to bargain over PPE. Like in nursing homes where there was unions, there was greater access to PPE, which is one mechanism that may link unions to lower COVID-19 mortality rates, and this helps the people that they serve. I mean, it's amazing what giving workers a democratic voice on the job can do, not only for themselves, but for their communities.
It's a simple fact that CEOs, CFOs, administrators, managers are constantly trying to cut resources in an effort to increase profits. I mean, that's a simple fact. Mm-hmm. So we know that when there's a union in place, to bargain over those resources, that you're going to have a greater increase in safety. I mean, not only the resources to the PPP, but I guarantee you they've got a safety committee as well that's investigating any claims by union members that are pointed out to be unsafe. And they get to go to the table and negotiate this as a union, as a group of workers. They don't have to just sit there and do what they've been told to do. You know, that's the great thing about unions in general. It's not surprising at all. I'm surprised that you came up with that article. I'm surprised that somebody came out with one so quick, but I think it lends to everything that we've been saying the past several months.
Absolutely. And it is like, it's not surprising, but it's amazing. Like 30%. A relative decrease in COVID-19 mortality rate of 30%. Like, that's a lot. That is not an insignificant amount of better service for the people that they're serving. I mean, that's lives. We're talking about people's lives being on the line, and unions fighting for people's lives. Like that. I mean, that's amazing.
Hey, Jay, we got Kareem out of Huntsville on the line. He didn't say what he wanted to talk about, but we got about 3.5 minutes left. Welcome in, Kareem. What you got, brother?
You know, I agree with you guys totally. The only problem is that the Republicans has managed to convince a lot of poor white people throughout this country that it's a sin for them to have health care, or it's a sin for them to have any kind of help from the outside. They keep telling them, you know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Meanwhile, I don't see them benefiting them anyway. They've been voting Republican for the last 50, 60 years, and all they do is get jerked. It seems like they say, well, at least I'm not black. That's the only thing they have to deal with.
You know? Let's clarify one thing. The majority of Alabama hasn't been voting with Republicans for the past 50 or 60 years. Now, they've been voting with Republicans since roughly around 2000, but prior to 2000, Alabama was a solid Democratic state. But the Republicans ran such a great game, making everyone think, you know, the poor folks out in the rural areas, that they could better themselves by voting for them. I mean, they done a sleight of hand.
And the sad part about it is that I see so many poor white guys. I mean, me myself, because I own a small business, and I hired maybe like 5 of them the other day, you know, and they was willing to work for pennies, but I had to give them more money because I had to let them know that they was worth it, that the work that they was doing was worth it.
Yeah.
You know?
All labor has dignity. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, that all labor has dignity, and then they're doing good, and then they're doing good work at the same time. But they are so convinced, and I think the Democrats is missing a prime opportunity. They really need to come out and talk to these folks and explain to them that they need health care, they need dental care, they need stuff like that so they can live.
Not only that they need it,
so they can live.
Not only that they need it, but they deserve it. They deserve it.
They deserve it.
Yeah,
they deserve it.
The Democrats, and I see some of them beginning to do that in some areas with Hometown Action, one of the sponsors that of our show. They're beginning to reach out and to these rural areas and help educate, and the same thing that we're trying to do, help educate a lot of the blue collar working class folks.
The only thing they do. Everybody want to reach out to the black community. A lot of us have made up our mind. We already know we're not voting for Trump.
Right.
Okay, that's day one. But at the same time, they need to go to these people. They have, you know, just have community meetings with them. You got to change their minds. And I think if they're able to do some of that, we won't have such a hard time come November.
I think so. I think you're right. And I think that's why, like David said, that's why we want to do this show, is to educate people. Because not only are people told that, like I was saying with Doug Jones, like Democrats are like radical communists or whatever, which is just a silly thing to say. But they also don't know the power that they can have through organizing, through a union, and these are things that even more than voting for Democrats are going to help people. And so that's what we wanted. Like we want to like share the good news, so to speak, of organizing and like what you can win if you fight with your brothers and sisters on the job and in your community. And it's not even just voting for Democrats. It's not even primarily voting for Democrats. That's not even the majority of what we talk about on the show. The majority of what we talk about is fighting with your sisters and brothers on the job at the point of production. And because that's where you have the most power.
Yeah.
You have way more power from your labor than you do from your vote. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. This is the Valley Labor Report. If you want to talk to us, give us a call, 1-866-494-9866. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. You are here this morning with myself, Jacob Morrison, and my co-host, David Story. We've been talking about Doug Jones, Tommy Tuberville, the Senate election, COVID-19 in nursing homes with and without unions. Kareem just called in. Thanks for the call, Kareem. We hear you all the time on WVNN, so we appreciate you. We appreciate you calling us. That was fun. It's nice to have folks calling in. I did want to say, though, I just wanted to reiterate that point that I was making before we came into the break, that like you can organize in a union and not even vote for Democrats. Like that, like you have so much more power with your labor than you do with your vote, that that's the thing that we really want to emphasize, is organizing in your workplace, forming a union, fighting together with your brothers and sisters on the job for better working conditions. And when you organize a union, you don't have to wait for a politician. You don't have to rely on a politician. You don't have to rely on the good graces of your boss. You just have to believe that your labor is worth something and fight for it. That's it. That's all it takes. Most of David's members, in fact, are conservative or libertarian leaning. And David will fight like hell for them. He will fight tooth and nail for his members, and his members will fight for him. Right? It doesn't like the bonds that you have with your brothers and sisters in a union transcend almost anything else. Okay? Like, I don't care.
Absolutely anything else.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely anything
I don't care ultimately. I mean, I care. I do. I care who you vote for in November. And I'll tell, and I don't care to talk about that with you. But if you vote for Trump in November and you are a member of my union, you are in the labor movement, I will fight for you. And people that are in the labor movement that are going to be voting for Trump in November, they're going to be fighting for me. I think they're voting against their own interests when they vote for Republicans. And I think that's obvious. Republicans have made it clear that they do not think working people should have power in this country. They think it should be run by oligarchs and autocrats. That's obvious. But that takes education. That's one of the reasons we're on the air, so we can educate people about that. It's how obvious it is that Republicans do not think that working people should have power in this country.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.